Let's do this here. Okay. I believe it's recording. Does it show recording on your end there, Christina? Perfect, perfect. Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started. Good afternoon if you are on the East Coast. I think the bell has struck noon. And good morning to those of you in Central Time and or Pacific or Mountain Time. We're super grateful that you're here. Folks are still jumping in, so we'll begin with just some high-level things this morning or this afternoon, and then we'll get into some of the nuances as we go. My name is Dr. James McCoy. I serve in my day job as the Chief Academic Officer and Provost for the College of Southern Nevada in Southern Nevada, Las Vegas specifically. We are a Hispanic serving institution and an MSI as well. And most provocatively in the context of this space, we're able to bring remediation reform to full scale across all of our universities and all of our colleges across the state of Nevada. And so through that work, we've learned a lot, and we're excited to share this work, continue to share this work with Complete College America, which you'll hear more about in a moment. We're also excited to share this work with UNCF, Strong Start to Finish, and each of the institutions that are represented in this cohort, these communities of practice. And so we'll talk much more about that. For the purpose of this project, I will serve as your project lead for the project, but we've assembled a terrific group of content experts and facilitators and coaches that are going to help us each step of this way, and more on that as we go. For now, we're going to go ahead and begin with Dr. Brandon Protis, one of the Assistant Vice Presidents for Complete College America. And we're excited Brandon is joining us just minutes before he takes off on his flight. And so Brandon is the executive sponsor for Complete College America for this project, among many, many others. And we're grateful to have him here this morning to talk us through a little bit about Complete College America and why we're doing this work centered around remediation reform for math and English, in specifically co-requisite math and English. Brandon, thank you for being here, and we'll give it to you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. And once you close out your screen, I'm going to share my screen. As James mentioned, because of the timing of this, I am at the airport, and I literally will be leaving minutes after I finish. So if you hear noises behind me, we're just going to have to do the best we can. So very excited for this kickoff in the partnership with the UNCF schools that are participating to look at co-requisite support. So first, a little bit about CCA. I won't read you what you see on our screen, but I will say that we have a singular mission, and that's dramatically increase college completion rates while closing institutional performance gaps. And I said we have a singular mission, and then it sounded like I said two things, but it's because we think that these are inextricably linked. When we say institutional performance gaps, we use that term instead of achievement gaps or equity gaps, because it puts the responsibility, the onus on the institutions rather than on the students. And we know that when we change our systems and our structures, as you'll see with co-requisite support, we have a direct impact on student success. So as an example of that, even though it's under attack right now nationally, if any of you have TRIO programs, when you have TRIO programs and you see the amazing results, you never say, I don't know why that happened. It was just the students. It wasn't about us. You claim those wins. You say it was because of our caseloads. It was because of the workshops that we offered. It's how we recruited students. It was the personal attention that we gave them. And you know that what you put into it as an institution yields those results for students. Well, in the same way, if we're noticing that we're having issues and we're not seeing the results that we see, we can't say, well, it's the students. Throw our hands up in the air and say, what can we do? We're going to show you with developmental education reform and co-rec in particular is there's a lot that we can do, that directly impacts students. So Complete College America is focused on this, is how do we create the systems, the higher education system for our students that's going to increase student success. And just to be clear, very often when people hear us say college, and we're talking all kinds of post-secondary education, but this is what they have in mind. And I think we see this more and more right now because of the devaluing of higher education and how people are thinking of one way in which students are going to college. They're thinking of the Harvards and ways that are being politicized, or the schools with the student throwing the Frisbee and leaning across the grass. But when Complete College America says college, this is what we mean. And just so you know, these photos are actually taken from a soon-to-be-launched Complete College photo library where we went around the country and took photos of authentic students in real situations. So we went to HBCUs, HSIs, rural schools, urban schools, commuter campuses, community colleges, seeing adult learners, veteran students, to show how students are really going to college. And I think this should resonate with the experiences that you have on your campus. So Complete College America is known in a variety of ways. So one thing, for example, is we've led the national narrative in a lot of ways that have become normal. When you hear guided pathways for success, or even the term co-requisite remediation, these came directly from Complete College America. In fact, the term co-requisite was coined with a bunch of people sitting around an office in CCA, and now that's part of the national lexicon. We put it out, and I'll talk about some of our national publications, but there's ways that we have been changing the narrative, changing those perspectives, questioning long-held beliefs of this is the way that we've always done it, and call for change at the institutional system and the state level. We are a national nonprofit, and we're an advocacy organization. So we are looking to reform both through policy and through practice. And one of the ways that we do that is we have an alliance of members. We have 53 members across the country. Most of those are states. We also have some consortia and some territories. And there's ways that we connect with those in the field so we can make sure that those changes we're talking about, as I shared with leading that national narrative, we're actually helping to implement on the ground as well. What you're going to see throughout this project, which is kicking off now and goes throughout all of the next school year, is this coaching and support model. And this is based off of Kotter's model, and John Kotter comes out of Harvard. He has a deceptively simple theory about organizational change. And so we've taken that and modified it. And what you're going to see here and throughout the project is we start with identifying the challenges and the opportunities. What's the story that's actually happening? Which students are being served, which students are not being served? Creating that sense of urgency, because we know with any deep change, and as you'll see, co-requisite support is not just about changing English and math, but it's really about campus-wide change. You need to start with the purpose of what's the reason why. From that, as you know, the coaches who've been assigned to you have been talking to you about how do you build up the right team. So yes, that's going to include English and math faculty, department chairs, deans, but also folks from the advising, from institutional research, from outreach, from the registrar's office, because of the ways that co-rec impacts all parts of the college campus. When we rally around that shared vision, it's coming together for the change we want to see and being really clear around that messaging of what it is. And throughout the year, we're going to help you develop those action plans, those key steps that you and your campus will follow to get from idea to implementation. And I'll tell you that co-requisite in particular, but most college reforms in general, they're not one and done, that once you implement it, you wash your hands and you walk away. Rather, it's a process of continuous improvement to make sure that we're making the tweaks that needed for our local context and campus. So we're steadfast about co-requisite support. But what that looks like from state to state or from campus to campus for those on this call today might look different because of your individual context. So a little bit more about CCA before we get into the content, and you will see this throughout the project, is we're a data-driven organization. We move beyond the anecdotal to say what's really happening with all students and let the data drive the way. And you're going to see how we're going to share this with you to help develop your initial white papers to find out what's going on in your campuses. When we design for complexity, we know that we take a systems approach. When you make a change on one part of campus, it impacts other parts of campus, either directly or indirectly. Sometimes ways that we can expect or imagine ahead of time, and other ways that we may not well be aware of. Even as something as simple of changing how classes are scheduled together could have a big impact on BAN or whatever system you're using for how they're put into the system, which impacts how advisors are talking to students about it if we're really going to get the change that we want to see. You heard me talk about the shared accountability with the term institutional performance gaps, which is we're measuring our progress as we move forward and holding ourselves as institutions to the level for student success and making the changes that we need to see. And finally, and I apologize, it's because I have to catch a plane. Normally we would start with introductions, but we will get to those. We are employing content experts who have led this work in their colleges and their states who have national reputations to be able to bring that expertise to you as coaches, and also shared learning that we'll do across the colleges. So a quick note, Complete College America actually advocates for 18 strategies across 4 pillars. They follow in some ways the student's journey. So purpose, if you think about a map, is where's that end goal you want to be in connecting your career and your academics together. Structure would be the routes to be able to get there and putting those guardrails on so that you find your way smoothly. Momentum is the speed in which you get there. So you start off fast and keep that going all the way through. And then support are all those parts of the car that help make sure that you're safe, because we know that college is about academics and beyond academics. I've highlighted in blue how co-requisite support fits in here, but I also want to say in a deeper way, and with that systems approach, when we start talking co-requisite support, we might start looking at how students are placed through multiple measures into those classes to make sure that all of the math pathways have co-requisite support attached to them. So whether it's college algebra, math for liberal arts, stats, or whatever you have on your campus. And then if you're doing meta majors, those math pathways should be connected to those meta majors and part of your academic maps that you give to students, which then impacts your advising. All of this is to say it's really an integrated approach, and I want to acknowledge that up front. So let's get into the heart of the matter. When we talk about developmental education reform, not just co-requisite support, but dev ed reform, CCA looks at it across 3 measures. How do we in the middle increase student success while decreasing what you see on either side, students' time and students' money? And we need to keep that front and center when we think about the reasons why we want to engage in this reform. Now, this project is part of a network called Strong Start to Finish. And they're built up of, they're a national network built of multiple organizations that provide technical assistance and expertise to really increase how students start off in their beginning of their college experience. We're going to be focusing at the bottom, which is acceleration, which is co-requisite support. How do we get students to and through that college level class faster within 1 semester? But there's also an overlap with placement. How do we determine who's even needing that college class with support or without support? And then the alignment, as I mentioned, the math pathways to make sure that students are taking the right math pathway course for their program of study and what they're interested in career-wise. All this together is what creates impact. There are other UNCF schools that are right now focusing on the placement, and they may eventually go to co-requisite support. And similarly, this group may decide after moving to co-requisite support that it's time to look at placement or alignment to make sure that we have all parts of the puzzle together for which Strong Start to Finish advocates. So what is co-requisite support? In the traditional model on the left, you see 3 courses. It could be more, but a student comes to college and says, I'm ready for a college class. And instead they're told, you're actually going to be taking the equivalent of a high school course. If you're not ready for that, 1 course before that. If you're not ready for that, 1 course before that. We've talked to colleges that have 4 or 5 or 6 courses. So think about this. You're signing up for a college class, and it might be a year and a half, 2 years before you ever have access to that college course. The alternative is what we see on the right, co-requisite support. And let me be clear, the default for all incoming students is not the co-requisite class. That's often a misnomer or thought of in the wrong way. The default is that all students, every student, goes into the college level gateway course for English and math. All students. Those that don't require that support, extra support, take it as a standalone course, as you have students doing now. But those that do, rather than going back 1 or 2 or 3 or more semesters, they still take that college level course, but with embedded co-requisite support that's offered in the same semester with a different kind of pedagogy using backwards design. And so it's important that we realize we're not taking what was taught in 2 or 3 semesters and putting it into a short period of time, but we're actually changing the pedagogy, and we will talk about it. This may seem really simple on the face of it, but I tell you, and the reason why this project goes over the course of a year is it gets complex really fast. So let's talk about that pedagogy. I see the pedagogy in a co-rec course using 5 things. First of all is the review. Prerequisite remediation is a deficit approach. You have to show us everything that you can do before you ever have access to that class. Co-requisite is an asset-based approach. You've graduated from high school or equivalent. you have content expertise already in you. We might need to activate it. We might need to bring it forth. We might need to do some more practice, but we're going to go based off of that. So in the course, there's a lot of review of the foundational skills you should have already for that college level class. Maybe they're a little bit rusty. Maybe when you did that placement test, you focused on procedural knowledge, not the conceptual knowledge, because it's been a while since you've done it. So lots of review. There's a lot of preview, which is here's what's coming up next week in the next unit. Lowers that level of anxiety. Lots and lots of practice, because now you're taking an additional course on top of the college level course. And when you don't have time for that English or math course and thinking about that flipped classroom models, we're actually doing that in the classroom right now. And we're doing it through active learning, which means, and when you hear Victoria show videos of her class, there's no front or back to the room. Students are mixing up in different ways. You're building this sense of belonging through culturally relevant pedagogy, and you're changing what that classroom looks like. And if you're using just-in-time teaching, it's backwards designed. So you're focusing on what's happening in that college level class that day. So when you teach co-rec, it's never going to be the same twice. And you might focus with this group of 4 students on one skill, that group of 3 students on another skill, while that other group is actually looking at a video on YouTube. And then sometimes you're doing mini lessons, but it's very active and dynamic. And finally, the metacognition, where you're not even dealing with the math or English content per se. You're dealing with the affective domain. You're going beyond the content, which might be, how do you understand yourself as a learner? Doing an autopsy of a test that you did and understanding why you did well or why you didn't do well, and thinking about what that means for you as a learner. If you have an adult student who's going back to school and it's been a while, or maybe they didn't have a positive high school experience, changing what your classroom looks like, getting into the touching and feeling part. Now you'll see these 2 call-out bubbles, and sometimes what I'll do is I will actually ask a math person if they can respond to the bubble in purple, talking about pathos, logos, ethos, and kairos, and they explain them or put them into use in their writing. And typically they'll say no. And then I'll ask an English professor if they can solve that equation on the right. And the point is, not to put them on the spot, is that they don't need to go back and take a year and a half of classes to be able to do that. These are learned people, they're professors. And then I'll ask the math person, could you actually help the English person? And how long would it take to be able to get them to solve that problem? Maybe it's been a while since they've done exponents. And hey, English professor, how long would it take you to be able to help that math person out? To be able to understand pathos, logos, ethos, kairos, and writing? And typically the answer is, oh yeah, we could do that pretty quickly. It wouldn't take a year and a half. That's one example of what that just-in-time teaching is. And if we can think about ourselves in that way, we should have that same level of respect for our students and what they're bringing to the table. And that's really a core piece of what co-requisite support is about. Now, co-requisite support, just to be clear, is solving a problem. And that problem is that of attrition. We are not attacking the dev ed educators. They're some of the most dedicated professors out there. And when CCA first started talking about co-requisite support, some people thought we were attacking them. It's the problem of attrition. And so even if you have a good pass rate, if you started with 100 students and took 70% of that, you would have 70 students in the next level course. And if you took 70% of that and 70% of that and 70% of that, just from the pass rate, you get down to a pretty low throughput rate, which is the students who would start in co-requisite that got all the way through. But what you see in this slide is you have both the students who might pass and those who don't pass, you see in orange, but then those in white are those who pass but say, this road is too long. I want the college level class. I don't even have access to it. Life happened, I'm stopping out. And so in this theoretical model, we go from out of every 10 students, 1 gets 2 and through the college level course. And by the way, this has been shown over and over from multiple states, the data that shows this in more detail. And here's the issue nationally. And while this may not look exactly the same in HBCUs, what we see is the number of students overall, and this stat is taken from 2-year colleges, though we see it at 4 years as well, who are assigned remediation. Notice I say assigned because it's not typically the student who's choosing that. It's the college who's saying, you're not ready enough, you're not prepared, you're not college ready. And then we look at the over proportion of students of color, and particularly Black students who are placed in remediation, were placed in those high school level classes, even though they're signed up for college. And when only 1 out of 10 gets through that college level course, this is hurting our students. We might even question if this is educational malpractice and what are we doing to our communities. So CCA has been leading the narrative, as I've said, for more than a decade. We put out a report starting in 2012 called Bridge to Nowhere. And let me tell you, that raised a lot of flags because co-requisite support was new. And we had this clarion call that shook people and questioned their beliefs. We followed up with that, spanning the divide in 2016, and then 2021 released 2 reports, No Room for Doubt and Co-Requisite Works, and I'm going to share some of the data from those. And in 2024, Formula for Success, which is about math pathways, showing the through lines of developmental education and the need to be able to serve our students better. Since that time, co-requisite support has become more of a norm, but there's still a lot of work to do. Here's what we've learned from all of this. Our key takeaways. I'm going to show you that co-requisite works. Simply put, I will challenge you to find another student success strategy that has such dramatic results in such a quick period of time, both for students and for the institutions. It's an equity-focused strategy because some of the issues of overplacement of students of color in prerequisite remediation. And then there's been questions, but if we take students out of these long sequences, we may lose money. Now, I would submit doing bad practice because you earn money off of is a terrible reason to do that practice. But we've done some studies and we'll show you why it's actually a financial win for both students and institutions. And finally, we think that co-requisite should be the norm, which what CCA advocates for is getting rid of all prerequisite remediation in English and math. Now, let me be clear, for this project, we also believe in working with institutions with where they're at. So we're going to start with you with your coaches to find out what your goals are to help you get to the point that you want to get at. But I'm letting you know the point which CCA advocates for, particularly at the system and state level. So this data is from the University System of Georgia, part of our Co-Requisite Works publication. And the reason I'm sharing it, this is very often people will say, but my institution is different. USG is comprised of 26 different colleges and universities, from community colleges to R1 universities, urban campuses, rural campuses, HBCUs, HSIs, every kind of campus, you will find it. And they fully scaled. They went through policy first, fully scaled co-requisite support. So math with the traditional method, they had a 20% throughput rate. And I say throughput and not pass rate, because pass rate is only those who make it to your class who pass. Throughput is those who start in remedial. How many get through? This is typically what we see across the country. They went to a compressed model, so not quite co-requisite. They saw some increase, 29% throughput. When they scaled co-requisite, again, across all of their colleges and universities, they went from a 20% throughput to a 67% throughput, more than tripling that throughput rate or success rate, and 47 percentage point increase. Remember that challenge? Can you think of another student success strategy where you're going to see that kind of impact? And what we typically see is that in the bottom is that English starts a little bit higher. They start at 45% throughput, 26% increase to 71%. So maybe not as dramatic because the higher starting point, but this is typically what we see across the country. And when I talked equity, here's what we mean. Notice we're not comparing to a white standard. We're not setting that norm. We're setting the standard for all students. We see that all students, based off race, Pell eligibility, first generation, were passing or had the throughput either slightly above, at, or just below the average for all students. This is an equity solution. So Nevada, you were introduced by James McCoy. He's a good friend and colleague and an amazing leader. The reason why he is on this project and leading is because of the work that he led in Nevada. Statewide started with policy. It was actually legislation to move co-requisite support. Actually, it was policy. Co-requisite support through their board of regents across all of their colleges and universities. We were presenting and we put together a proposal and we thought we're going to see good results, but we put in the RFP before we saw the results. We got accepted to the conference. Pretty excited. We hadn't seen the results yet and we said, I hope they're good. They should be, but a little bit nervous before you pull the data. And then we pulled the data. Let me show you what we saw. In math, it went from a 16% throughput within 1 year. So students who started remediation within 1 year, how many got through that college level course? To a 58%. And look at the impact across race. All students benefited. And the students who were hurt most by remediation were benefiting the most, 16% to 58%. We were blown out of the water. This is statewide across colleges, community colleges, and four-year universities. Again, I would challenge you to find these results somewhere else. In English, as I said, starting at a higher rate, overall 34% throughput to a 58%. There's not a student group that does not benefit. I want to show this in different ways. This is from California. They actually went through state law, AB 705 and 1705, which wasn't directly co-requisite, but primarily so. Gets a little nuanced, but the reason I show this is they broke it down in different ways. Low high school GPA, students with disabilities, low-income students, foster youth students, veterans, and Puente and Umoja are affinity groups. So these are English. These are math results. Again, there's not a student group that doesn't benefit and benefit dramatically. Now, it's not saying 100% of students benefit. And I would never say you're going to have 100% pass rate for any course. But would you rather have a 6% throughput rate or a 20% throughput rate? And it's not just for that first level English and math course, but to be clear, that is what CoRec is designed to do. But we see these results going through. So this study was done with CUNY students, and it combined both math pathways, putting students from college algebra to stats and co-requisite support. And they found when they followed those students longitudinally, graduation rate was just around 50% more students graduated. And they actually kept going with this study into wages. And they found after 9 years, students who went through co-requisite because they were able to graduate faster also had higher wages. What's also interesting is the students who, for many of them, it was a terminal math course. They went on not just to get higher grades in those math courses, but to continue in other math courses beyond what they normally would have. So we see both immediate and longitudinal results. I mentioned the ROI of what's the money you put in for the professional development and changing your schedule. Well, we looked in West Virginia statewide, and what we found was it was actually a net increase after they went to co-requisite, which makes sense because we all know if we retain students, there's a lot more bang for the buck than if we're trying to recruit new students through that revolving door. And I would submit is even if it was a neutral, it's actually a positive for students, because if you're spending your money and your tuition and time, dollars and time on courses that count towards your graduation, you're far better off than if you're counting them for doing remedial courses that don't count. Now, here's the issue. There was a study by Titan Partners, and of those that responded, of the over 2,000 that did, over 50% are still using traditional remediation sequences. So even though we have clear evidence, and I'm just showing you the tip of the iceberg, we see it state after state, why co-requisite works. Campuses are still often doing it. Now, some are doing no prerequisite or no co-recs and just doing prereqs, the traditional one. But what we see a lot is either mixed models, some prerequisites before co-requisites, and that's what we're here to work with you on, is how to do what's best for all students. So we know that there's pushback, and let's talk through this change process. So there's the apocryphal story of he's making a roast, and he cuts the end of it off and puts it in another pan, and his husband says to him, why'd you cut the roast off, the tip off? He goes, I don't know, my mom always did. So he calls up his mom, says, Mom, why do we cut the tip of the roast off? Put in another pan. She goes, I don't know why you do, but when I was first married to your dad, we didn't have a lot of money. We only had one pan and it wasn't big enough. So we had to cut it off to be able to fit into two pans. The point is we stick to tradition. We do remediation because that's how it was taught when we were in school. It was taught by when I entered my college, that's how the faculty did it. It's the way we've always known. Why would we change it? There's a logic to it. I remember at my campus when we moved to co-requisites, what do you mean you're going to take a student from who doesn't know fractions and put them in college algebra? So much wrong with that statement. How do I know they should be in college algebra? Let's talk math pathways. How do I know they can't do fractions? Because they didn't AccuPlacer test when they showed up and they weren't ready for it. Maybe they had a bad night. Maybe they actually can do it, but it's been a while since they've seen it. Maybe they know the procedural or missed procedural knowledge, but have the conceptual knowledge. We're challenging the logic of, well, if you don't know this, you should take a class before that. If you don't know that, a class before that, even though the data shows different. And that's a really big change, that there's other ways and better ways to do it. And finally, this is Harry Potter with his invisibility cloak. We don't see what we don't see. If I'm a college level instructor and I only see the students who made it through prerequisite, they will do good because they survived a system that's built to weed them out. I don't see the 9 out of 10 students who never made it to my class. So they're not on my data. So what I see in my class is real because we've thrown students away. And when you don't see that, you're not seeing the impact of why prerequisite through attrition is really hurting students. So this is a paradigm shift. We need faculty to lead the work, not just to buy in, but to fully lead of, if we're going to do this, what do we need to do to make it happen? And it's a campus-wide solution, as you've heard me talk about. We need to change how we advise students. What does it mean to take a co-requisite class? How are we doing our outreach before they even make it to our doors? How are we doing our scheduling and working with the registrar in our student information systems? And what you see here, this is also from Nevada. Think about this messaging versus come here, take this placement test. You're not ready for us. They sent out these postcards that said every college student is college ready. You come to us, you signed a contract to get that college degree. It is now on us to do what's best for you, and we're going to fulfill our end of it. You came to us, you're college ready. You're going to the college class, and we will support you in the best way that we know how. So I'm going to end with a final analogy, and I might have time for 1 or 2 questions, but I apologize. I will literally have to board my plane right after this. We all come to life, not just to school, to just come in so you don't hear that announcement, with tailwinds and headwinds. These aren't things that we're responsible for, but they might push us forward and they might push us back. Think about a student who's coming from a very well-resourced high school. This is one that's under-resourced. Coming from a life of poverty, coming from a life of wealth. Coming from a family that read lots of books to you when you were growing up, and enrichment activities and tutoring available in summer camps. There's one where that just wasn't a reality. Or students who are working part-time or full-time while going to school. This is the reality of our students. So how do we deal with that in our class? So here's the analogy. Denise Muller-Karnick in 2018 set the world record for bicycle land speed. And she went literally just under 184 miles an hour. I cannot go that fast. I can't even go half that fast or a quarter of that fast. But if you look at it, she had some help along the way. If you look at her bicycle on the right, it's double geared, it's extra long, has different sized wheels. The next picture, one over from that, someone's holding her bike because it would fall over before she gets started. She's actually attached by a cable because she can't even start to cycle until she hits a certain speed because of the gearing. So she's attached by a cable, then releases it, then she starts to do it. She's wearing special gear and has a windshield. She's being shielded from the wind, so she doesn't even have to deal with that headwind pushing back on her. She has sponsors. She has people paying. She has all these ways that people have her back. Now, her goal is speed measured by distance and time. I submit goal for us is success, which is completion for all students. Not some, but all students. And here's what it looks like if we take that analogy. CoRex, that provides that structural support like that windshield, shielding us from those bad practices of traditional remediation. When we take that growth mindset and think about affective learning into the co-requisite pedagogy, right? Not just drill and stand in front of the class. We're now taking this team approach, just like how she had sponsors. This comprehensive support. It's this whole campus. She's got a whole team of people helping her out, just like we want to do for our students. And the just-in-time teaching is leveraging on top of leveraging like the double cogs that you see on her bicycle. The specialized tools, what we know fits. So with that, and I apologize, I did go a little bit faster than I typically do because of my plane. We're so excited to work with you for this project with co-requisite support. And I can take a quick 1 or 2 questions if there are any.
Go ahead and
And I can also take questions in via email afterwards because of the timing.
Yeah, if you have a question, we'd love for you to unmute yourself and fire away.
Just really quickly, can he go back through throughput versus passing rate?
Absolutely. And this is so important. And our coaches will go through this with you as well. Pass rate is how many students passed my class, period. I'm teaching college level English. Did they pass my course? Pass rate. Throughput is who are the students who started in either prerequisite remediation or co-requisite who were not college ready and then get through that college level course. And we like to say within 1 year, right? So think about the sequence. If you took 1 prerequisite, you could take that in the fall and the college level in the spring. If you have 2 prerequisite remediation courses, you can't even do that within a year. If you have 3, you can't do that. You could look at unlimited throughput. But when we talked about saving students time and money, that's the problem. while increasing success. So we look at within 1 year, how many students start at prerequisite remediation or any form of remediation and get through the college level course. So you have to include the students who are lost through attrition in that number, and it changes your understanding. Pass rate, I see this in my class, gives one picture, very different when you look at throughput.
So Brandon, a lot of us got rid of prereq courses because financial aid pretty much stopped paying for it. For HBCUs, a lot of us don't have prereqs no more. So was there any data or anything looked at for, everybody's, for the most part, a lot of us are starting at that college level class. They're not passing it because we don't have we took the prereqs out because they said, hey, they got 16 semesters to use their financial aid, and they got rid of all of they wouldn't even cover, financial aid doesn't cover a prereq course no more. So how do you maneuver around that?
So then the issue is, and there's different ways that you can do this with how you schedule the course as a separate course, as a shared course together with that college level course. So rather than a 3-credit class, it becomes a 5-credit class or a 6-credit class. But what you're doing is saying, hey, we got rid of this because we knew it was bad, but we didn't give the extra support and the extra time and all those things that we know students need. And that affective learning, that's not even about the math or the English. So there's ways that we can do that, and the coaches will do it. This is, for those who know me, this is very unlike me to give a presentation and run. I really apologize, and I'm so glad I was able to do this. We're so excited for this kickoff. You're in such good hands with James and Kim and Christina and Victoria. You're really working with the best, and I'm overseeing the project as a whole. So sorry that I have to run, but can't wait to hear how it goes. And thank you for participating.
Thank you, Brandon. Safe travels to you, and we know we'll see you again. All right, Tori, that was a brilliant question, and I'm appreciative that you asked those 2 questions and you made the observation around prereq and funding and those sorts of things, and recognize we're going to be together for the better part of a year. So we'll be able to curate professional development and trainings and resource sharing and coaching along the way, and it's going to be put together in such a way that's going to be meaningful for each of the 6 institutions. We're going to create communities of practice and all the things. So your questions are spot on. Keep them coming. And as we continue the engagement over the course of the next 12 months or so, we hope to obviously get every institution aligned with best practice in each of your own unique ways. So with that, let's go on to our session 2 for this launch webinar, and we're going to do some introductions. We're going to hear from your CCA coaches a little bit about their backgrounds. You're going to hear from our UNCF partners, whom you likely already know, but you may not know them across the network. We're going to also hear directly from your institutional leads, and your institutional leads will help to introduce each of the team's members from each of the colleges and universities. After we finish with the team introductions, we'll move into the project overview. We'll give you a sense of the scope of the project, the timelines that we've kind of loosely put out there to keep us on track, recognizing that there's lots of flexibility for each institution's unique situations. We'll talk about some of the milestone achievements. How do we know what success looks like over the course of the next 12 months? And then, of course, we'll answer questions as we go. And then the last 45 minutes to hour of our time together this morning, we're going to get into breakout rooms and engage in a listening session by institution, 2 institutions per breakout room. And you'll see how that'll play out here in a minute. But the purpose of those listening sessions, as you'll soon learn, is to really get an understanding of the readiness of each institution to do this work. What are some of the successes in terms of where you're starting? What are some of the areas that you foresee being challenges to overcome? And so our coaches are well prepared to lead and facilitate those listening sessions. And then we'll call it a launch webinar. We'll be following up with each of your institutions as the course of the year goes on. You've just heard from Dr. Brandon Protis, who's our Vice President at Complete College America. We're grateful for his time and energy and passion and expertise in this space. As I mentioned, my name is James McCoy. I'll serve as the project lead, most provocatively working with each of the 3 Complete College America coaches as we're putting together all kinds of things behind the scenes so that you don't have as much logistics to work through. So I'll give a broader introduction in just a moment. We also have Dr. Kim Davis, Vicki Dominguez, and Dr. Christina Flores who are assigned as institutional coaches to each of the 6 institutions, but they also come to the table with very unique subject matter expertise, whether that be in English, in mathematics, or from a leading of transformational change in this space. So we've got 6 institutions that have rose their hand and said, we want to be a part of this co-requisite remediation reform work, and we want to do it to scale. And so we're so excited to welcome Shaw University in Voorhees, Southern University A&M, and Lincoln University of Missouri, and Huston Tillotson University and Wiley College into this network, this community of practice that will do this work together. You're going to find there will be opportunities for all 6 of our institutions to come together in these kinds of formats like we're doing today. But then there will be very nuanced opportunities for institution teams to come together with their coach through a variety of different curated professional development trainings, data analyses and review. And our whole goal here is to make sure that what we are creating and helping to create with you is unique for you. None of this is out of the box. You'll see that we'll be able to understand where each institution is at in this co-requisite remediation journey, and then we'll be able to respond with just-on-time support to help you through this transformational project. So with that, let us turn the tables to our Complete College America coaches and have each of them do a brief introduction so you can get to know them a little bit more as well. We'll start with Dr. Vicki Dominguez. Dr. Dominguez.
Hi, everybody. I do have to be completely honest. I'm not a doctor. I have my bachelor's degree in mathematics from USC, University of Southern California. I also have 2 master's degrees, one from USC in leadership and also my master's in mathematics. I was for 8 years a full-time math faculty at Citrus College in Glendora. I'm in California, about 20 miles east of downtown Pasadena. And during that time was when in about 2016, 2017, we were working on these ideas of co-requisite remediation. We had about 18, 19 faculty at the time full-time, and about another 15 that were adjunct part-time. We got a group of about 6 of us who were ready to try this, make that leap and do this co-requisite remediation. We chose introductory statistics as our transfer level course. We added a 2-unit or 2-hour per week co-requisite to that class. We implemented it and offered it in 2018. So we had a 4-unit stats, 2-unit co-requisite. We also at the same time implemented multiple measures remediation, multiple measures placement with our students, asking questions in our application to place students instead of using AccuPlacer. Other things we did, just-in-time remediation. These are all buzzwords that you heard from Brandon. Pretty much we did them. We were required to do them, as Brandon said, in California. We had law that we had to comply with. It was actual legislation. We saw wonderful results. And I felt like it brought the faculty together and also brought others on board who weren't so ready to join us. In 2020, I decided to take the leap and I was the Dean of Math and Business. I was the Dean of my division. And at that time, we also implemented 3 other co-requisite courses for pre-calculus, for applied calculus, and also for Calculus 1. We've seen wonderful results, and I am looking forward to working with all of you because this is a great project that benefits students tremendously. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Vicki. And Vicki will serve as the lead coach for Southern University A&M and Lincoln University of Missouri. And we know that there are representatives on this launch call here today. So we're grateful for for those two institutions and your leadership. And also, as Vicki alluded to, her expertise, living, walking, and breathing co-requisite remediation reform in mathematics specifically, will be an asset to our entire cohort of 6 institutions. And so there'll be opportunities for each of the institutions to learn even more from Vicki, even if she's not coaching your institution. She's our resident co-rec mathematics expert. So we appreciate you, Vicki, very much. We'll go on to Dr. Kim Davis. Dr. Davis.
Good afternoon, everyone. Glad to kind of see everybody virtually. I've been double timing James, talking to my Voorhees colleagues who, it kind of like my invite, it might have gone to their spam. And so folks didn't have it on their calendar. I sent an invite and we'll see how that goes. But just about me, I'm excited to be here. I've been in the co-requisite space for about 15 years. I was excited to see Brandon share the information about Georgia. That's where I got, kind of like I cut my teeth on this. I feel like back in the day, back then when it was a Complete College America grant for the state of Georgia, and they had selected 5 institutions to work with on different models. And my institution was fortunate enough to work on the co-rec model. And that kind of got us seen. That also allowed me to then work with the state on where the state of Georgia decided to go with it. And it's exciting to see something 15 years later still having such a tremendous impact. But that was a great learning experience. I then moved to a community college in Michigan, where that work followed me. Like that, it was probably instrumental in helping me get a job, as my husband I can't blame him that way, kind of dragged me across the country to another institution. So there, so in Georgia, it was kind of required to. So at that point, when I got to Michigan, it was want to. We were looking at our own numbers and looking at that attrition. And so we kind of delve into, how could we transform developmental education in both English and math? And I'll say that even though my specialty is English. So my day job, I'm the Dean of Arts and Humanities. My doctorate and master's are in English. But, what's great about doing this kind of work is you get to sit at the table with others. And so even in Georgia, and as I moved to Michigan, I got to also work with my colleagues in math to see what they were doing as well. And I loved Brandon's diagram, because when you're looking at this kind of work, you're also always looking at placement. As Vicki said, you're looking at, what kind of measures are you using? Are you using, multiple factor? Do you, we even moved to guided self-placement at one point in, when I was in Michigan. Again, because my life moves, not always because I have a choice. I'm currently in Maryland and doing the same work. So this is my 3rd go round at transforming developmental education, working on task force, again, with English and math faculty. And we are currently, I am knee deep in working with my own English faculty on modifying our co-rec. We're implementing a new system, new placement, effective this current fall. So it's near and dear to my heart. And I always see this kind of work as equity-based, as Brandon showed. It has such a great impact on helping students get what they came for.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. We appreciate you. And as you've all heard, Dr. Davis has now helped 3 states engage in this work. And so we're grateful that we'll be able to transcend that expertise. Kim is our resident English expert, so she will work with each of the institutions in that regard specifically, but also serving as the direct coach, the day-to-day coach for Shaw, who's very well represented here today and with Voorhees University. So thank you, Kim, very much. We appreciate you. Let's move on to Dr. Christina Flores. Christina.
Well, hello, y'all. I am honored to be here working with all of these great colleges on Corequisite reform and developmental ed transformation. I come to this work most recently from 7 years at the Texas Success Center. We were housed in the Texas Association of Community Colleges, where we focused on whole college transformation through guided pathways, including math pathways, multiple measures placement, and corequisite reform. I served as the Senior Director of Research and Evaluation, so the resident nerd who helped not only build the systems and structures, but also measure the impact. And we served all the way up to the boards of trustees levels, the college presidents, the chief academic officers, the chief student service officers, but all with the goal of ultimately serving the students in our 50 community college districts in Texas. So before that, though, similar to Vicki, I hold a master's degree in mathematics and a PhD in STEM education. And I was in the classroom for 15 years. I started teaching middle school math and English in the South Bronx. And then I taught high school math in Baltimore City, Maryland. And then for 11 years, I was at Austin Community College as a math faculty member and assistant dean. And it was there where we started the big reform efforts for Dev Ed, including math pathways. So thinking really deeply about what math students should take and for what reason, and then doing the institutional work of aligning that in each program and into large meta majors or common groups of programs. And community colleges had a big chunk of work to do there because we really had to change from kind of this cafeteria model where we expected these students to come in and shop around and pick the right program to really providing guided, thoughtful support for those students, recognizing that the institution had a much bigger impetus to do that work on the back end and provide students with that support along the way. And it was because of that that I got into my doctorate program and really went deep into research and developmental education reform at the system and structure level change. And so it was through that work that I got to transition to the Texas Success Center for 7 years. And so what I'm excited to do is not only do the nerdy math work, of course, happy to think about curriculum change, math pathways in that work, but also really to think about bringing together all of the practitioners and all of the different people on the campus that have to make this change. And as someone who had to wear like 20 different hats in every job I've ever had, I certainly understand the initiative fatigue, but really thinking strategically how we build that into your already institutional mission and goals and get everybody on board to move this ship forward. So I'm just so excited for this work and excited for your students who will get to benefit your expertise that we build together over the next year. And so thank you for allowing me to be part of the project, and I look forward to working with each and every one of you.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Flores. And we're grateful for you. And as you can see with Christina's background, not only contextualized within mathematics, but also helping to bring all of the different stakeholders across the state system and across an institution, whether that be in the IR data analysis space or in the marketing communication space or in the curricular redesign space. She'll be that glue that can help each of our 6 institutions really come together. So we're grateful for you, Christina, as well. So as I mentioned earlier, my name is James McCoy. I get the honor of serving as the project lead for this project with each of you, and I'll be working very closely, continue to work very closely with our 3 CCA coaches. Believe it or not, the 4 of us started this work to put this project together with Complete College America, UNCF, and Strong Start to Finish about 4 months ago. So we've been at this behind the scenes for quite some time, learning about each of your institutions and putting together a framework that I hope will be beneficial. A little bit about myself, so you know where my background comes from. This is my 26th year in higher education broadly, the last 23 of which have been in the state of Nevada. Served in a variety of different roles from faculty. My background is in communication and journalism from my bachelor's and master's degree preparation level. And then my doctorate program is in higher education leadership administration. And I have a very strong research interest in helping underserved communities overcome obstacles that perhaps they never asked for. And so I really have a strong will toward open access institutions and helping students of all backgrounds make sure that they can get across that finish line. And so that's been sort of the product of my work over the last 15 years here at the College of Southern Nevada. I remember sitting at a Complete College America conference in 2014. And it was during that time we had brought together at this annual convening a variety of state and institutional representatives, as CCA does for these conferences. And I remember in the debrief session in that 2014 conference where we were sitting as a state team, and the chancellor at the time, the head of the Nevada system of higher education, made up of all the colleges and universities across the state, looks me square in the eye and says, James, what is the one thing we've been fire hosed at here for 2.5 days? What is the one thing that we need to walk out of here with as a state from a policy or legislative approach to really move the needle to help students overcome challenge and ultimately be successful through college? And my response, without skipping a beat, was co-requisite transformation. We need to engage in remediation reform. And if we can do it to scale, we will see the kinds of successes that states before us have seen, such as Georgia and New York, as we've seen with Brandon's presentation. So he says, well, how do you think we ought to do that? And I said, bring this to the Board of Regents, put this in a policy framework, and the faculty and staff at the institutions across the state have to own it. If it's their idea and they can come up with unique scenarios to really position this policy to full scale, then I think we'll be much more successful as opposed to sort of a drill down administratively. And so we spent the 2 years putting together that policy work at the state level with institutional leadership from mathematics faculty to English faculty to chief academic officers and deans. And over the course of that 2 years, put together a really strong policy that ended up taking hold across the entire state, meaning 2 years later, no institution that's publicly funded in the state of Nevada will be able to offer traditional remediation pathways, similar to what Ms. Miller was talking about earlier, right? No more dev ed. And in exchange for that, however, we weren't just going to throw students right into the Gateway Mathematics and Gateway English class, but rather it was going to be the co-requisite course. And so shortly after that policy was put into stone across the entire state of Nevada, the chancellor comes back to me and says, James, I need you to lead this work across the whole state. We need to make sure that you are able to pull together representatives from all of our colleges and universities to implement this to full scale. And so I had the honor and privilege of doing that work, putting together a team of about 65 people across the state from each of the institutions, faculty, staff, registrar, advisors, IR people, and marketing people, and really began to put transformation in the pedagogical approach to the delivery of Gateway Math and English through the co-requisite model. And as Brandon noted, just a few short years later, the success results for this bold transformation are evidenced in the data, and they're evidenced at graduation day, when we see students from all backgrounds, all ethnicities, all socioeconomic perspectives, walking across the graduation stage. And for me, that's what makes this work so real. And that's why when UNCF and Strong Start to Finish and Complete College America came to me and said, hey, would you help facilitate these 6 institutions with some coaches to get to the same, if not better, results that the state of Nevada has seen? And I said, without skipping a beat, I absolutely will. Now, my day job is not with Complete College America. My day job is serving as the Chief Academic Officer and Provost for the College of Southern Nevada. It's a college of about 42,000 students, a very urban college experience here in Las Vegas. And we're an open access institution, which I mentioned earlier is where my heart is. So we welcome students into our doors who have a pulse and who have a desire to want to do better with their lives and get them into prosperity through higher education. Hopefully the reason that all of us are in this work. So that's my day job, but I'm very excited to participate in this project as well. Let's transition to some more introductions and move into our UNCF representatives. And I think I saw Catherine on the line. Catherine, do you want to jump in and share a little bit about your background?
Sure. Thanks, James.
Hi,
Greetings, everyone. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Greetings, everyone. I am Dr. Catherine Benuya. I'm a senior program manager in this project. So my institutions are Lincoln University of Missouri, Southern University A&M College, Houston Tillotson University, as well as Wiley University. I'm really excited to be part of this project. My doctorate was in student affairs leadership as well, James. My 20-year experience and career in higher education, I actually started as an advisor at a 2-year access institution, part of the Georgia University system. So very familiar with the work here. Moved on to building the online student support system for the largest online program in the system. It was always about equity and access and student success. So I'm really happy to be grounded and centered in this work again through this project with CCA in our institutions and UNCF. Have worked with a range of students from developmental education, when we used to call it learning support, all the way to pre-professional students at elite institutions. So the wide range of where our students are coming from, who they are, and what they're bringing along with them are certainly multi-factors that impact student persistence, retention, and graduation and success post-higher ed. So that's my higher ed background. I've been with UNCF Institute for Capacity Building, again, as a senior PM for about the last 2.5 years. So this is a higher adjacent space for me. Happy to work with all of the institutions and support our progress in this space together. So thank you to the team. Excited for the collaboration and the coordination. And I will kick it off to, I believe Sierra's also on the call with me.
Thank you, Dr.
Yes.
Catherine. Hi, Sierra.
Yes. Good morning / afternoon, everyone. Sierra Oliver. I serve as the program manager for UNCF Institute for Capacity Building. I have been with the department coming up on 3 years in September. Fun fact, Catherine and I started on the same day. Prior to HBCU grad, wanted to highlight that Livingstone College, Bachelor's of Mathematics, had a very close relationship with UNCF in undergrad, received 5 to 6 scholarships from UNCF, ambassador, as well as received a small portion of a student loan forgiveness program from UNCF. So I value the mission behind UNCF and happy to be in this space and to do this service. Also went to Kennesaw State for my master's in public administration. Yeah, that's pretty much it for me. Let's see who else is on the call from our team. I know Darylyn is at a site visit in Payne College, but our fearless leader, Darylyn Lafang, she serves as the Assistant Vice President for Transformation Support and has been with our organization for 14 plus years. Shout out to Darylyn. And our other colleague who is in another meeting, had a meeting conflict at this time, Mr. Joseph Peterson, another UNCF program manager colleague in his institution that is engaging in this service is Shaw University. And Joseph has been with us coming up on a year in July. So that is our UNCF team. Glad to be here.
Thank you so much, Sierra, and we appreciate you too, Catherine, and Joseph and Darylyn as well. The UNCF partnership with Complete College America and Strong Start to Finish has been amazing, and we're just getting started. Let's transition to our institutional introductions, and we will hear from each of the institutions that are represented here in this call today, and we'll get to know the colleagues who weren't able to make it at a subsequent meeting. Let's start with Southern University A&M. Who's on the webinar that would like to introduce yourself and a little bit about your background?
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Mike Taylor. I'm the Associate Vice Chancellor for Enrollment Management at Southern University. And my background, I've been in enrollment management for approximately over 15 years, serving as an enrollment manager. And I'm happy to be here on the call today. Working with our group leaders. Unfortunately, I believe I'm the only person on the line from Southern. However, I will take the information back to our colleagues. I know one of the co-leads were going to be on the line today, Dr. Finley. She will oversee the math co-leads. However, we do have, she has appointed 3 leads to help us with that. In the math section, in the math roster, in the English roster, we have Dean Cynthia Bryant. And for the advising portion, we have Dr. Gigi Myers. And for our, I call it the data, we have our institutional research person, Dr. Bakral Kushan. We have our registrar, Jelana Turner, will be on the roster as well. And communication, lead, I guess that would be, I would take the lead on the communication lead as well. So it's a pleasure, and thank you.
Right on. Thank you so much, Mike. We look forward to working with you and Southern University and A&M. And thanks for giving the shout out to the rest of the institutional team members who weren't able to join us today, but they'll watch this webinar and appreciate those introductions. Thank you so much. Well, let's turn to representatives from Lincoln University of Missouri. Anybody from Lincoln?
We had Dr. St. Rice and Angela Pritchett. I saw their names on the participant list.
Yes, I think Ms. Pritchett she's trying to get her sound going.
Okay.
Right.
Hey, Dr. Rice,
All
I'll
right.
let you kick off.
So I'm going to go ahead and kick us out. Good afternoon, morning, whichever time zone you find yourself in. I'm Dr. St. Rice. I'm the Associate Provost and Dean for University College here at Lincoln University in Missouri. I'm going to be honest with you. I'm just coming to this academy. I've been here now 2 months in this role, and it's an inaugural role, so I'm responsible for building out quite a bit. But I'm not new to higher education, and this is my fourth academy that I think fifth academy that I've worked at, both on the faculty side as well as administrative side. And so my background, my discipline background is actually in criminal justice, criminology, sociology. I've done some work with gen eds and teaching in that space as well as faculty advising. And I always tell people I wasn't born in higher education. I've been in higher ed now 12 years full time. And prior to that, I actually had a really successful career in the criminal justice sector for 20 years, and where I worked on state and federal level, working with prisons and things of that nature in the area, many different areas. I'm excited about this because as we were going through the PowerPoint presentation, I could think of I'm a first generation college student who knew nothing about college prior to my god sister forcing an application in my hand and saying, here, fill this out and get it to me before the day is over with. And so I completed it, and she submitted it for me and found out I got accepted to college here in Missouri. And so I was surprised. So that's how that works. So I started applying everywhere. But I can remember my first major, my desire was to be an architect. And so I had taken all of these architecture classes and drafting and CAD and everything else in high school, and was really, really good at it. But then I got to college and found out that math was required, and that wasn't a conversation. And so after going through that first class, I redirected my attention to education. So it was, but had I had this type of support, no telling I would probably be teaching architecture, because teaching is my passion. So I'm excited about this, and I know that the importance of it for creating equitable pathways for students, no matter where they're coming from. So I'm looking forward to working with this team and seeing what we can do here at Lincoln University. I think Ms. Pritchett, you good? Okay.
Thanks, Dr. St. Rice. Ms. Pritchett on?
Can you hear me now?
We can hear you. Hi.
Hey, the right combination of speakers works. It's when you have a couple of extra screens and you never know which one the speaker is going to hook to at any given moment. Thank you, Dr. Rice, for jumping in. My name is Angela Pritchett, and again, I'm with Lincoln University working with Dr. Rice. And I am currently the Senior Director for Institutional Research and Assessment, and also serve as our Transformation Lead at the university. I've been in higher education loosely 25-ish years. I spent 13 years working for our state Department of Higher Education, Director of Academic Affairs, and then was part of the CCA Corequisite remediation, math and English statewide. Never fails. Something always goes by as soon as I start talking. Our statewide efforts in this matter. And so we worked as a state with CCA long time ago. So I am familiar somewhat with this work. And instead of trying to navigate, 13 other public four-year institutions only having to do the one. So looking forward to just working with Lincoln University to help us with some of our efforts in this matter as well.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Angelette and Dr. St. Rice. We appreciate your representation and your leadership and look forward to working with Lincoln University of Missouri even more. Let's transition to our representatives and leaders from Shaw University. Who'd like to begin from Shaw?
Good afternoon. Actually, my colleague, Dr. Gargano, had to step off. This was the one day that Shaw actually chose that we could not do, but it was it was the day that worked out best for the cohort. So we wanted to do our best to be here and represent. But Dr. Matthew Gargano will be our institutional lead. He's the leader of our team here. He is a professor of business management and an academic success coach here. He's also our Shaw Business Society faculty advisor. He's out of our School of Business and Professional Studies. So he works very closely with our first year coursework as an academic success coach. One of the co-leads is Dr. Vanessa Moon. She's our Dean of Academic Support, as well as the Vice President of Student Affairs. And I am Tori Miller. I am our transformation officer. So I currently am the special assistant to the president. And I just kind of work with our different leaders to accomplish university-wide projects and initiatives. I'm also a certified change management agent through ProSci. Daryl and I share that. We just think it's the key to undergirding projects like this. So if you know at HBCUs and maybe higher ed individually, you start a lot of projects, but you don't always have a methodology to assess them internally, to prepare your campus to ensure they're successful. So that is why we've started trying to apply our change management science to campus-wide initiatives. So that's kind of my role, to keep the glue together, to bring in different pieces and parts as we move along through the project. We also have the support of our institutional research team, our registrar, our advisors, which advising is really quirky here at Shaw. And we even, that's why I was talking about it with financial aid. It's just making sure this math and English for not even just our first year students, but as a retention and a progression has been a challenge. And we've looked at, I did a project maybe 2 years ago using the Pearson learning model. Like we've looked at Georgia Tech, Georgia State, and what they were able to do. So we've tried a bunch of different models, and we're hoping this is the one. That is our hope here. So we're very excited about the project.
Awesome. Thank you, Tori, and thank you for introducing Shaw University. And one of the things that you said, actually a couple of things that you said really resonated. One around change is hard, transformational change is even harder. And so I'm grateful that you and your experience will be able to help Shaw and perhaps the rest of us engage in some of those things ahead of time, thinking through how we get to scaled transformational change, particularly when you're talking about pedagogical change, right? It's a very difficult thing for folks who are accustomed to delivering mathematics, particularly in a certain way, because that's, quote, the way we've always done it, right?
Yeah,
so,
and academic freedoms.
That's right. That's right. That's right. We'll have some sessions actually throughout the next 12 months that specifically get at that root. And creating and preserving academic freedom, but also understanding that there's accountability to student learning outcomes at the end of all this, that we got to make sure our students are well-centered in that experience. So I appreciate you mentioning the notions around change. And welcome to Shaw University and to the cohort here. I don't believe there is anybody from Voorhees or
there's Dr. Davis from Shaw as well. Did you want to introduce yourself?
Thank you. Thank you, Kim.
I was totally okay with just hiding in the background.
No, we have the same name,
so
Dr. Davis.
And honestly, I thought I saw Dr. Davis. I didn't see the camera come on. I thought, Kim, that was you. I didn't even think that our Dr. Davis would be able to make it. I'm so excited because she leads us on the English side. So we've partnered with our first year English and our first year math courses, and Dr. Davis is representing English. So please introduce yourself.
Well, I'm Dr. Davis. I'm a professor of English at Shaw University. I'm also a faculty liaison for the Writing Center. I'm actually really excited about this project because I just finished my doctorate back in December. And one of the things that I did, it was the recommendations to solve some of our low scores for our entrance exams, as well as grading, within our English department. And a big focus was remedial support. That was one of my recommendations because we lacked that. So I'm super excited just to see what we can come up with, because we did try something different before. We tried to do a co-rec with our English it was a English 109 course was the name of the course. But it just, so many different things just didn't align. So I'm really, really super excited just to see what we come up with. I'm excited. And that's all.
Awesome. Thank you, Dr. Davis, and congratulations on your recent conferral of the doctorate degree. That's exciting. And we appreciate you being here. Is there anybody else on the line that we haven't had an opportunity to hear from yet? Okay, we'll make sure our Voorhees and HT and Wiley College colleagues have the opportunity to watch this, and we'll get to know them a little bit.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, James, but we do have someone from HT on the line.
Oh, good. Please.
Dr. Malloy.
Hi, good afternoon.
I'm sorry, as Dr. St. Rice said, no hiding allowed.
Okay, so here I am. I am at HT. I am the representative from the Office of Academic Innovation and Transformation. I am new to this whole project. And so I am amassing a team. I'm reaching back to a predecessor to ask her who was on it before, or who was part of the Complete America projects, plural, before, so I can tap their shoulders to see if they will if they're still here, first of all, and if they are willing to join us. So I haven't gotten the set of, or the group of people that you all have already, but I'm working on that. I'm looking forward to this initiative because it's important that students be able to take those courses that help them to build their skill set and their knowledge base, and at the same time get credit for it, so that they are not losing track ground, or maybe patience, or the mindset is very important, and that can wane when they think that they're not getting anywhere soon enough. So anywhere that learning support can happen, I am all for that.
We appreciate you, Dr. Malloy, and thank you for being here. Thank you for repping HT. And don't worry, we're going to get you up to speed as quickly as possible and help you curate that team together. And we're just getting started, right? So this is day one. This is the formal launch for our Corequisite project. So you are just on time. It's perfect. Is there anybody else on the call today that we haven't had a chance to hear from yet? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and continue. I want to spend the next 10 minutes or so talking about the scope of this project and highlighting some of the unique milestone achievements that we're going to work toward achieving together. And then we'll spend the last 30 minutes or so in breakout rooms to hear more specifically between the coach, put some conversation together between the institution coaches and the institution representatives. And we'll do some more of these listening sessions in the coming weeks as well. So a little bit about the Corequisite project overview. What are we going to be up to over the next 12 months? Well, first of all, as I think you've probably alluded to at this point or understand, this is a collaboration between Strong Start to Finish, UNCF, and our HBCUs and Complete College America coming together around a singular focus to increase student success in college level mathematics and in college level English. And that, of course, is a focus on co-requisite learning support models that, as you recall at the beginning of our session today, Dr. Protas was able to kind of highlight at a 30,000-foot view. CCA, Complete College America, has been chosen in partnership between Strong Start to Finish and UNCF as the lead project support agency or organization to help each of our 6 institutions engage in this work. So we've got some key project activities that at a holistic level we will be exposed to together. And the first is the facilitation of virtual learning communities on co-requisite models. And so our goal in this sort of pathway for learning support is to bring together each of the 6 institutions' English faculty, or each of the 6 institutions' mathematics faculty, or each of the institutions' advising leadership, and create these virtual learning communities that are very contextualized and very specific to the work that these segments of colleagues do across each of these 6 institutions. And so we'll have sessions on specifically just English co-rec, or we'll have specific sessions just on mathematics co-rec, or just on how to advise and think about placement from that lens. We'll have sessions that are specific and focused on equity and achievement gap work and data. And so we'll be inviting even broader audiences and groups and participants together for those learning communities. So you'll see that there'll be a variety of optional engagement that are nuanced to very contextualized learning communities throughout this. As you've heard, we've got 3 wonderful experts that are serving as our Complete College America coaches for each of the 6 institutions. And the coaches that have been assigned to each of your institutions will work directly one-on-one with each of your campuses and universities. And so you'll have additional just-in-time, uniquely contextual support for each of the 6 institutions working directly with your CCA coach. And we'll bring in additional expertise to each of the institutions as it's needed for more ingrained professional development and support. And then just a high-level overview of the work. We began this work a number of months ago, putting together this vision with our partners at UNCF and Strong Start to Finish. And of course, we launched today here in May, and we'll continue this for 12 months, recognizing that summer is just around the corner, and students and a lot of our teaching faculty will be going in a variety of different directions over the course of the summer. So we've got some unique aspects of the project that we know we can work together on through the summer, and we can ready ourselves for even deeper concentration come the fall semester. So that kind of brings us to the timeline of a phased approach. We've put this together into 3 phases, and I'm going to go through each of these phases with a little bit more detail here right now. Phase 1, we launched today, and it'll take us all the way up through the summer and into September, and I'll talk about what that's going to look like in a moment. We'll begin phase 2 sometime in mid to late September, and we'll continue that work through Thanksgiving in November. And then phase 3 will start in December and continue us through the end of our engagement together on this phase, at least at the end of May of 2026. So let's talk about phase 1 for just a moment. Phase 1 will be the foundation setting for this work. We'll have launch meetings with coaches and institutions. We began that formal sort of cohort-wide launch today. We'll do even more launch meetings with each of the 6 institutions and your unique teams, just with your folks in the coming weeks. We are going to launch an institutional needs assessment. When I mentioned the front end of the dialogue today, I mentioned that none of this is really out of the box, right? We want to make sure that we're creating unique institutional focused outcomes, and therefore that's going to require an approach to this work that is institutional need centric. And so each of the institutional teams will have the opportunity to engage in a very meaningful needs assessment and an analysis of that needs assessment with our coaches, and the coaches will talk more specifically about that. From our lens, this is going to also help each institution develop an institutional white paper. This is setting the stage. This is charting the course. Here's where Shaw University wants to end up, and here's why we're engaging in this work. Here's what our data is telling us about current pathways for Gateway Mathematics and English. And we know that with the co-requisite model, we think we can get to this level as opposed to the level maybe we're at now. Each institution also may decide that you may not be ready for full scale. That's our goal. From the Complete College America standpoint, we believe in full scale across the board to make the most dramatic impact, but recognizing that we've got 12 months together for this launch of this project, we need to meet institutions where they're at. So there may be some institutions who say, you know what, we've been piloting and we've already set the stage for co-requisite reform and remediation reform. So we're ready to go full scale. We can do this through policy quickly, and we're gonna have we'll be ready for this by fall 2027. And that's okay. We'll go down that road with that institution and bring this to full scale ready for fall 27 if that's what your intent is. For other institutions, you may just be ready for English. Maybe you're not ready to quite grapple with math yet, or for some others, maybe it's just math and not English, or for some others, maybe it's math and English, but just at a pilot stage. We want to get something ready in pilot mode, but we're not necessarily ready to go full scale, but we want to test, and then we'll be ready for full scale with authenticity. So again, my point is that each institution will develop a white paper with support of our CCA coaches that will help chart the vision for this work. So the phase 1 milestone is the submission of a white paper. In that white paper will be the data analysis of your gateway course success, your rationale for why your institution is adopting co-requisite model for math and or English, your implementation timeline, and what resources you may need beyond the support of this group, what additional resources you may need to make this successful, and then what your stakeholder engagement plan is. As we were talking about earlier, we had with Ms. Miller, we were talking about transformational change and bringing all stakeholders across the institution together, because everyone has a place in this work. And so we want to make sure the white paper contemplates what that engagement plan looks like. Phase 2 of this project, after we've set the foundation together, phase 2 of this project will be the implementation planning, and whatever that might look like for your unique institution. So each institution will develop a detailed co-requisite implementation plan. We will have monthly webinars on key topics, whether that be focused on policy or advising or placement or assessment or pedagogy or whatever it is. We will use our listening sessions over the next several weeks and starting today to begin to understand what is going to be the best professional development and training opportunities for each institution. We'll do that as a community of practice, as I mentioned earlier. We'll also have opportunities to do it at an institutional level. And then we're going to make sure we have opportunity for peer feedback through community presentations. And so we'll come back together again as a large cohort over the course of the next several months, and we'll present each institutional implementation plan to one another. And we'll serve as sort of a focus group experience for institutions. We'll provide feedback to each of our institutions, not only from your coaches, but from each of us as peers as well, to make sure that your implementation plans are as tight as possible. And so that becomes the milestone number 2 that we hope to achieve certainly before December of 2025. And then this gets us to phase 3, which is our launch support. So we've done the foundation setting, we've done the implementation planning, and now we want to make sure we're here for each institution to actually launch something. Somebody mentioned earlier that we're often engaged in a variety of different initiatives and strategy reform work, and sometimes seeing that across the finish line is very difficult. And so it's our goal to make sure that this does not fall into that space. And we're going to spend so much time together focusing on foundation setting and case making and implementation planning. We want to make sure that we're here for you also to actually launch something. So you'll have virtual coaching and implementation support along the way as institutions. We'll continue our community of practice webinars that would have already begun. And then we'll aim to do a final project wrap with a plan for some level of implementation. For some of you, you'll be ready to implement at full scale shortly. For others of you, maybe you're going to implement something in terms of a pilot and maybe even nuance to a particular area, whether it be English or math. And that's okay. The point and milestone on this phase 3 approach is an executive summary on the institutional progress. Our coaches and institutional leads will draft this executive summary with the participation of the institutions to make sure that we're able to provide a report to all key stakeholders, not only at the institutions, but also to the funders of this work for us. So the community of practice webinars will engage from fall through April of 2026, and those will be curated just on time. As we're seeing opportunities for professional development and training in a particular content area, we'll pull together some experts from across the field, and we'll engage in those webinars together. as needed. We also have monthly webinars based on institutional needs and data. Those might be unique to institutions, and there may be some cross-pollination on need across each institution where we'll be able to come together and throw invitations out your way as part of this work as well. So the scope of the work for our Complete College America coaches and for me are as follows. One, we'll have monthly one-on-one support. Each of our coaches will for 2 assigned institutions, and you've met your coaches. Our coaches will facilitate site visits and virtual sessions. So one of the things that your coaches will talk with you about here in just a couple of minutes in the breakout rooms is what will be the best opportunity for them to come out to your institution to rally around a 1 or 2 day working session with your teams to make sure there's boots on the ground support. One thing we know that oftentimes with virtual engagement only, sometimes the engagement from a prioritization lands in the moment of that virtual interaction. But actually having folks come to campus and engage with this work with you and alongside you at times that are meaningful for you is built into this recipe. And so our coaches have the opportunity to make at least 1, but up to 2 visits between now and May to help with each institution. We're going to make sure we develop a comprehensive needs assessment tool. Some of that will be informed as a result of today's feedback and more to come. Each institution will be supported in the actual response to those institutional needs assessments as well. Our coaches will contribute to webinars and feedback cycles, and of course, participate in monthly project meetings with me. So with that being said, I know I've thrown a lot at you. We've got about 30 minutes left of our time together today, and we want to use these last 30 minutes to engage in breakout sessions. And so in just a moment, I'm going to open up I'm going to open up all 3 breakout rooms. I would like for our participants to find the room that their coach will be in. And on the screen here, I'm sharing room 1. Our Southern University and Lincoln University of Missouri friends will be with Vicki. In room 2, our Shaw University and Voorhees University friends will be there. And then in room 3, I don't think we have one from HT, Christina, so it'll be a one-on-one with you in that moment. And each of our coaches will ask similar questions and look for candid feedback from our institutional representatives and leaders today. And we'll use that feedback to, again, help to create the needs assessment tool that will be forthcoming. So with that, I will stop sharing my screen in just a moment. I'm going to open up the breakout rooms and have each of you join us there. Once you finished your work in the breakout rooms, you are certainly free to go, and our coaches will wrap up with you there. Again, thank you so much for participating today, and we look forward to seeing you in the breakout room here in just a moment. All right, on the screen now, you should see the breakout rooms, and feel free to join the one that makes sense for you.
So James?
Yes. Hey, Catherine.
Hi. Hey. So my 2 schools are in room 1 and 3. Can I toggle?
Oh, of course. You bet.
Okay. Okay.
Thanks,
Like,
Catherine. I know you got like quadruple duty today.
Like, I don't want to abandon anybody, but
Yes, no, I get it.
I'm in 2. Okay, that sounds
Thanks.
great. Thank you.
Hello.
Hey, Kim. I think you're still.
Am I still in the main one? I don't know that I got your, it didn't crop up. It should crop up.
Well, let me assign you to your room here.
Breakout room. Let's see if it comes out. All right. Know what?
You're going
I found it. I'm going to
Shaw,
2.
room 2. Yep.
Okay.
I'm trying to find mine.
It's at the bottom of the screen. There's like a navigation.
Catherine, I can put you in. I can put you in manually. Which room do you want to start in?
I can start in 1 and just work my way to 3.
Okay, I'm going to send you to 1 now.
Oh, I
Hopefully
see.
it'll pop up.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
You bet. And Denise, Mike, or Tori, are you still on the line? Denise, can I send you to a room? Or Mike or Tori? And then Tori, were you able to find your breakout room or can I help?